Welcome to Rocket Ship, the podcast where web developers learn the skills and secrets to ship awesome mobile apps. I'm Simon Grimm, creator of Galaxies.dev, and today with me is Enzo Mangano. I love Italian names. Welcome.
Hi, Simon. I'm really glad to be here.
Thanks for joining me today, Enzo. So Enzo is a super interesting combination of developer, running his own company, and also doing pretty well on YouTube. So Enzo is close to 10K subscribers, and I think his content is rivaling William Candillon's content in that Enzo is very focused on Reanimated and Skia. So we're gonna definitely talk about that later on. But first, I would love to know. I saw on your profile that you went to some kind of Apple Academy when you were like in a cooperation with your university. I'm a little bit of an Apple fanboy myself, so tell me, did you meet anyone cool, or what has been going on there?
Well, the experience at the Apple Developer Academy is definitely such a huge milestone in my life. Basically, during the university, we had the opportunity to have basically the building from the Apple Developer Academy under the university, and that was really awesome. So you can imagine there were a lot of people coming from all over the world just to attend the Apple Developer Academy, and basically I had simply to run from the university to the Apple Academy, and it was like a 1 minute walk to achieve that. So, and that was actually my first experience in the mobile development field. So, basically, I started thankfully to building native apps with Swift. At the time, right now there is this Swift UI, which is quite awesome. But at the time, basically UIKit, the UIKit framework was the unique opportunity to develop a native application with iOS. Of course, there was Objective-C, but that wasn't even an option for me at the time.
Yeah, and I think that was around 2019 when you went to the... So I started with Apple development, I think 2015, 14 at my first job. And we started with Objective-C, and back then storyboards were cool. And I still remember all the constraints and stuff going on. It was horrible.
Exactly. So the fun fact is that basically that was the first time that I was kind of binded to the Apple environment. And I know about the possibility to subscribe in order to win the scholarship for the Apple WWDC event. And that year I won, and it was quite unexpected, the possibility to win actually the scholarship for the WWDC. And then I moved to San Francisco for this event, to San Jose, and it was really, really awesome. And the point is that at this point I realized that the Apple environment was kind of awesome, but it wasn't. There were clear boundaries around the native development. So at this point, basically, I was super interested about the native development, but I realized, especially as an individual, that I couldn't basically afford to create 2 apps natively, and then I tried to switch to other frameworks. And at the time, basically, I started, and that's quite a shame. I started with Flutter, so right now, as a React Native developer, I shouldn't say that, but Flutter was definitely awesome as a cross-platform framework to start with. So React Native was great, honestly, but in the last 3-4 years, there have been a lot of changes in the cross-platform environment, especially for React Native. React Native 3 years ago wasn't that awesome, to be honest. So 3 or 4 years ago wasn't that awesome at all. Expo wasn't that huge as is today. So Expo, honestly, I saw actually your video about which one should be the best option between Expo and React Native CLI. I totally share your point. Actually, it doesn't make sense for me anymore to start a project with React Native CLI. But all these awesome packages, Reanimated, Skia, Gesture Handler, weren't that great, weren't even there at the time. So Flutter was probably the easiest solution to start with.
Yeah, I mean, I might have some Flutter guests later on this pod, so I don't want to scare the Flutter developers away. Flutter is actually a legit framework. I tried it out just like a few weeks or a month ago, and it's just a different mentality or way of building stuff. I think it's actually closer to like Swift UI and how you structure your view with all the widgets and the huge widget tree. And I mean, it's Dart, so it's not something that comes naturally to like web developers who come from a JavaScript background. But on the other hand, I really enjoyed that, like, you got everything. You start a Flutter project, it's instantly there. You got all the packages, like everything just looks good out of the box. I don't have to install React Native screens, navigation, UI, whatever. Like, I don't need 50 other packages. It's just all there. So if you can live with that and enjoy the Material UI. I mean, yeah, there's also like, what do they call it? Like Cupertino UI for Apple?
Yeah, Cupertino, the Cupertino package in order to build the native logic for the iOS.
So I also come from a background of Cordova and Capacitor, so that's also the third option next to React Native. I mean, React Native and Flutter are usually like the biggest options, and nobody's talking about Capacitor and Cordova, but they're getting more traction lately, and I've been using Ionic for like 8 years now, so at some point it might reach the same status as React Native. But yeah, React Native just benefited from everyone getting into React at some point. It's just the React ecosystem that has grown so big, and I heard that before just yesterday on the podcast that, yeah, Expo somehow wasn't the same a few years ago. And I made the video because there were like all the other videos I found about this topic were from 2 years ago. And I felt like it's not the same. It has changed so much. Like I can do a pre-build, I can do a dev client, I can do whatever I want, basically. I'm not limited.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's definitely a huge, huge point. So the point is that previously, Expo basically you couldn't have the option to install native packages. So of course there were some native packages already available in the Expo ecosystem, but the point is that that was definitely a kind of limit for developing React Native applications. And honestly, Expo did this kind of upgrade to dev client, to the pre-build stuff quite a few time ago. I believe right now it's almost 2 years. Mm-hmm. But I was quite biased about the Expo CLI things. Since I wasn't aware of that update, I was always think about Expo like a kind of tool to build toy apps or something like that. Mm-hmm. And when I gave to Expo the second try, I really was amazed by how far they went into creating a new framework to build React Native apps. So right now, the point is that by using just TypeScript, you can really, truly build an app yourself without touching native code. And that's without knowing anything about how to deploy a build on the iOS. It's just a game, basically. Not sure if you have ever tried to do that yourself. So of course, you have done that since you told me that you have experience in Objective-C, so you know how it was previously. So 8 years ago it was even harder. And with Expo, you simply run from the terminal line, and it's good to go. No submit, auto verify, and.
Yeah, I think some people come to Expo and think of it basically like a drag and drop interface builder. I feel they share the same mentality. Like when you see these tools, you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like I could drop some tools together, but if I want to build a real app, I'm going to use something else. Like nobody's using an interface builder to build a real application. And I feel like people think the same about Expo. Like, oh yeah, this is cool. Like, yeah, oh cool, you can just add npx expo and install this, and ooh, you get live reload. But yeah, if I want something real, I'm going to use the React Native CLI.
Yeah, that's the main mistake that I was doing even myself, honestly. But right now, honestly, I really think that Expo is an excellent tool to build even production-ready apps.
Yeah,
definitely, honestly.
Yeah, the only other thing that I personally found confusing is the general build process and the different options. Like, let me explain. I come from Capacitor, and with Capacitor, you basically add an Xcode project and an Android project to your web app, and then it syncs your web folders, and you just run it through the native tools. Like, that's the philosophy. And so when I used Expo, I'm like, where's the Xcode project? Where's Android? I just want to see it. Like, I want to feel this and get this. And they say, yeah, please use EAS build. And I'm like, really? I have to build on your servers? I don't feel good about it. But the thing is, after like a few weeks, I discovered, oh, I can just add -- local and it builds in local APK or IPA. Wow, this is amazing. And it just, the more I learn about Expo, the more I learned like how, you're not limited basically anymore.
Yeah, you have the double option. So I get your point. A lot of times you don't want to rely on Expo servers if you want to build
It's magic. It's magic to some degree.
It's magic, yeah, of course. But the point is that you have all the possible options. So it's up to you. If you want to build it yourself, you can do that. If you want to rely on the magic, you can do it either. So that's honestly what is great about Expo. Yeah.
So I would like to get into React Native in Skia and the cool tutorials you did in a bit. But before, I want to quickly highlight that you also have a consulting company that you, I think, started a year ago, or was it 2 years ago? It's called Worklet. So let me know, why did you start a consulting company and what is it about?
Yeah, so basically the interesting point is that this company is from January 2020. 2022, I'm sorry. And basically, so last year, basically the interesting thing is that I built this company with other two amazing software engineers, and I met them at the Apple Developer Academy. So
awesome.
Yeah, basically at the Apple Developer Academy, we built our first app. We did that with the SwiftUI, not with SwiftUI, with the UI kit. Mm-hmm. And then we start to understand that basically, as I mentioned previously, the native development, so especially in Italy, right now in Italy, iOS is very popular, but Android is even more popular. So you need to have even the Android option. Mm-hmm. So we rebuilt this app in Flutter at the time, and we were really totally aligned on the same vision. And we maintained this kind of project for 3 and 4 years. And after a while, we understood the potential of building products, of software products. And we left our job and we decided to open this consulting agency that is called basically Worklet. So right now I'm in the office of Worklet actually. And as you can see here, we have basically a white, almost white wall here. We need to paint our logo at some point, but we are taking our time. So the point is that this consulting agency is, of course, truly inspired about the React Native world. We work a lot with React Native. We work a lot with React. We are totally specialized in mobile development, to be honest. But we have even experienced web development, of course, by reusing the knowledge that we have from the React Native ecosystem. So, for instance, of course, mobile development is different from web development, even if they share the React kind of process understanding of building things. But you can definitely reuse a lot of it, even on the web. And we have used heavily Next.js framework, and which is definitely awesome, and it simplifies a lot of things that previously wasn't that simple. So Worklet is all about that. We were heavily inspired. So this name Worklet is of course a concept that is coming from the React Native Reanimated package. So the Worklet is a JavaScript function that can be executed on the UI thread. So here, I'm going to be honest, we really like that name, but we wanted to give to that a kind of meaning, right? So we justify the name of Worklet as the fact that we are just really focused in communication. We try to optimize the communication between each other in order to achieve a great productivity. So here we are, basically, that's how we are selling the Worklet name.
Yeah, I really like your page. Like, I've seen many consulting or freelancing agencies, and yours look really like there's something going on and it feels really interactive and light. So I really like the page. We're going to put this in the show note. I mean, it's worklet.it. I guess you only work with local Italian companies, but we're going to put this in the show notes anyway, because you also have a little showcase of the different apps you've built, which looks pretty cool. Also shout out, of course, to Raffaele and Paolo, your co-founders. I think you have a great team. I see just that you have a big data engineer with Raffaele. So I think building a team with different skills, like you're not all total nerds and just want to write code, like you have different skill sets in your team. I think that's important. But how did you just jump into creating this consulting company? Like you said, you all quit your job, but did you have like some client up front, or did you just think, well, if we three team up, we sure can make this work?
Well, so before talking about that, of course, right now the website is worklet.it. Unfortunately, we are talking about upgrading the website, and we are going to do that probably in September, October, since basically at the beginning, of course, we started with local Italian companies, and that was definitely easier for us. But thankfully, coming from Twitter, coming from YouTube, we found a lot of different customers from different countries all over the world. And so right now we are updating the domain, and we are going to update the website with the other works that we have done. So talking about the experience in building this company, so we were a bit crazy. So
that's what it takes.
Yeah, that's what it takes, definitely. But the point is that we basically saw this old app that we have built together from the Apple Developer Academy. We made a bunch of money from this app. It wasn't enough from having the idea to building a company, but we saw the potential in building apps. So we had at the time 2 or 3 customers, 2 or 3 potential customers, and we took this risk. We basically rented this office, always in Naples, in Italy, and the point is that from the day one we made very quickly these apps, and we started to improve. Internally the frameworks that we were using. So internally, since we are really a small team, we really try to invest a lot in reusable internal libraries. So the amazing things of software is that if you're able to create better software, you are able to deliver fast applications. So the point is that the quality gets better, and you can ship even fast products, even amazing products in a quick time, basically.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. If you're just 3 people, you don't have like a huge team of developers, so you need to focus on creating that. Is all of that by now using React Native and React, so you're not using Flutter anymore?
Well, at the beginning we were using Flutter. We were using Flutter a lot, but the point is that React Native has definitely a huge market right now, and I believe that Flutter hasn't reached the same market. So of course you can show me the stars from GitHub and all these amazing things. You can show me the Stack Overflow trends, and here I'm going to see the Flutter graph, which is higher than React Native. But the truth is that
I mean they're somewhat on the same level. If you check out the Stack Overflow survey, like Flutter and React Native, I think they're almost at the same level usually the last years.
Need to check that. So I need to check that definitely. But the truth is that there is honestly an error in comparing simply React Native with Flutter. You need to compare TypeScript or JavaScript with Dart, and here you are going to notice a huge difference in the market. So yeah, we like to use Flutter. It's an awesome technology. Often it's even better to use Flutter for a specific kind of apps. But we found out that React Native is more flexible in a lot of ways. So for instance, it appears that the customers asked us to build a React Native app, and then he decided also to build a website. And React Native Web, or I'm going to talk about Solito. Not sure if you have ever heard
I
it.
heard.
It's an awesome product made from Fernando Rojo, and basically you can have a monorepo which shares a React Native code with Next.js, and that was truly awesome. And you simply cannot do that with Flutter, unfortunately. Flutter Web, in my opinion, is not even an option right now.
Yeah, I think the output is still just a canvas element from Flutter where they render all their pixels in it, right?
Yeah, so that's fine if you want to build an app, but on the web development, it's something else, honestly.
So I heard about Solito. We're going to get back to Solito in a second. I had two other questions. So you said in some cases Flutter is actually better or makes more sense for some apps. Could you say, like, from your experience, in which case Flutter shines? Like, when is it good?
Yeah, so in my experience, when there is an app that really needs to perform better in the Android platform, often reaching this kind of performance is easier with Flutter. So unfortunately, with React Native, you need to play a lot with performance in order to achieve an awesome result. You need to be you need to really take care about the renders on all the components. You need to place a React Memo almost everywhere. You need to be very careful by using the context APIs and so on and so forth. And instead with Flutter, honestly, since they are really relying on this type of Canva view, they decide the rules. They don't have this problem with the bridge. They don't have to communicate between the native platform and the Canva. So they, with a set state, with a kind of render in Flutter, you get awesome performance with Android. And in this specific case, probably it makes sense if the app is not that hard. It's simply few screens, 20, 25 screens. Honestly, it makes sense to use Flutter. If you don't need to do something really, really complex, and you need to have awesome performance on the Android platform. That are my 2 points.
Oh, that's really interesting points. Thanks for letting me know. So we will definitely get to React Native Skia and animations in a second. The last questions I had was, you said Solito, and I heard Solito usually in the combination with, yes, Next.js, React Native, but also with Tamagui. Because Tamagui is like the latest, coolest thing in terms of UI components. What is the exact thing that Solito is doing in this combination?
So the point is that Solito is kind of, I see it more as a boilerplate. So you can do that yourself. You can do a monorepo that shares Next.js and React Native app. But the point is that Solito does that for you. So it prepares the boilerplate with a lot of interesting packages. So for instance, Tamagui, I've never tried it, but I know that is a UI library in order to build a cross-platform, consistent cross-platform animations, user interface, and so on. Across not only React Native apps, but also web apps. So the problem is that if you try to simply reuse your React Native code in the web with something like React Native Web, you are not going to experience, of course, a perfect result. Often it's not even going to work. So Solito prepares everything for you, and you are basically ready to go. And For instance, if you have a React Native app and you want to jump on the web development, you can really reuse a lot of things. Instead, if you have a Next.js website and you need to build the app, it's even better because basically you can simply place your Next.js website inside the website folder from Solito, and everything is going basically to work. And at this point, you can create a React Native component and you can import it into your website folder, and it's going to work either.
That sounds interesting. So it sounds like Solito is helping you get that mono repo to correctly set up, like the NX tools in the Angular world. I don't know if you use those.
Yeah, I never used Angular. I was interested, but unfortunately I was quite biased about the Ben Award videos about how Angular is terrible as a technology. So I never tried it.
Yeah, and I guess you watched the Theo videos that Flutter is bad as well, because he has a strong opinion on that as well. Because I think you can't use code push with Flutter, and that was his main reason for people to not use Flutter.
Yeah, basically with Flutter, I basically know. I met Flutter as a technology previously, and so I wasn't biased in this type of situation.
So Solito, I definitely need to get more into this and try it out. So if you say React Native for the web, the export isn't really great. What do you think about Expo Web? Because I know we got now the Expo Router version 2, which supports the file-based routing. I guess, I don't know how this plays together now with Solito and Next.js. Does this all work together somehow?
Well, so unfortunately, I've never tried Expo Web. I tried Expo Router, and that's definitely a kind of solution that helped actually Nando Rocco to build the new version of Solito. So the point is that the router is a concept from the web that is quite natural. So you can say that the navigation is totally natural, and that that's actually strange that this type of visualization of structuring folders is something new in the app development. So right now, the navigation in the app has always been totally different from the navigation in the web. And Expo Router brings this type of concept even on the mobile platform. And yeah, basically right now, if you start a Solito project, you can see that Expo Router is definitely the easiest solution to go in order to have a consistent folder structure across mobile and web.
But you're still going to have like two folders which have their routes. Like you have the Next.js routes and you're going to have the Expo routes. Like it's not just one folder. Like that would be the ultimate dream, to have just one folder with the route.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you can achieve that. Yeah, probably you can.
In the future, maybe.
Maybe in the future, yeah, but often it comes quite handy to have Solito if you want to share many component across the platform. So it makes sense to have your Next.js website, your React Native Expo app, and then you can simply rely on separate components and reuse the heavy components across the folders, but not reusing everything. So all the app, all the web, it's something too complex, and I need to have the let's say the access, the possibility to update each detail, each pixel. Probably web is going to have usually a different user interface from mobile. Of course, a lot of components can be reused, but there still are two different projects.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting what happens in the future, because Expo Web looks interesting. So with the Expo SDK 49, they added like a ton of features that help you to build for the web. Like you can have an HTML file which defines some head stuff. You can have like a function for get static params, so you can do a static site generation. So you can also have like better SEO for your Expo application. You can use CSS, and it feels a bit more like Expo is moving in that direction. I honestly don't know how this plays out, because Next.js is just the dominant framework for React at the moment, and everyone's using Next.js. So I don't know. I mean, it's like a lightweight solution if you have a React Native app and say, hey, we also need a website. So then you use the stuff from Expo. But if you as a consulting company really care about the web presence, which you usually also do, I guess in that case, it will always be Next.js or something that gives you like the full web experience.
I totally agree with this point. The trick, in my opinion, will be to have the option to have both at the same time. So basically, so for instance, in the project with Solito, you are not saying that you want to use React Native Web. You are saying that you want to use React Native components into a Next.js website. So it's where you have all the benefits. So React Native is an awesome technology. Next.js is an awesome technology. Why can't we have both of them? So that's the approach that is going to win in the long term.
I agree. So now it finally comes. I want to talk about Reanimated and other things regarding animation that you're doing on YouTube. So one thing up front, there are different words, services, libraries, and maybe you can tell me the difference. What is Reanimated? What is Skia? What is Lottie? Because I've seen these different things on your channel. So maybe you can make a little separation between them.
Yeah, so basically, Reanimated is a package. React Native Reanimated is a package super useful in order to build animations in React Native. And the point is that the common question is how it is possible that you cannot build animations with React Native itself. So how is that possible? And the point is that you can use the animated class from React Native, but unfortunately it's not going to work as you expect. And that's often a problem, not just with the fire and forget animations. So for instance, on Twitter, you can add a like, and the like animation, the heart animation is simply a fire and forget animation. The problem will come when you need to introduce gestures in your project. So if you want to deal with gestures and animations at the same time in your project, you are really going to struggle by using the gestures and animations from React Native. And the point is that right now, of course, React Native is updating their structure, their architecture. But right now, there is this bridge issue. So the point is that you can think about a React Native animations, a React Native app as an app that is always communicating with the native side. Mm-hmm. And while having gestures, you are while dragging the finger on your screen, basically you are sending a lot of information throughout this type of bridge from to the native side, from the native side to the JS bridge, and so on. And so you are kind of forced to switch to other packages, and basically Reanimated and React Native Gesture Handler solves this type of issue. They basically gave you the opportunity to write the JavaScript code that is going to be executed fully natively, and so you don't have anymore this problem with the bridge, and you are basically good to go. So why React Native didn't handle that with a package from React Native? Honestly, at the beginning, I really didn't understand this type of approach, but as you have mentioned previously, React Native is very different from Flutter. Flutter gave you the full package from the beginning. You are not forced to have let's say 20 different packages, 3 for handling navigation, 2 for handling animations, and so on. But the point is that the philosophy of React Native is all about providing you the React Native core. So the other packages, the very detailed packages, it's fine that they are built from other companies. And Software Mention is basically doing an awesome job with Gesture Handler and with Reanimated. Talking about Skia, React Native Skia, honestly, it's really a brilliant idea, brilliant package. And the point is that there is this type of jealousy from the React Native React Native developers respect to the Flutter developers. And the point is that since 2 years ago, so till 2 years ago, we weren't able to access the Skia API in React Native in the React Native world. So Flutter built this amazing user interface by relying on a Canva, and that's really a brilliant solution for the mobile development. Even if you really need to struggle in order to achieve a native interface. React Native has a totally different model, but the point is that you want to have the Skia API also in React Native, since you want to be able to have this nice shader, these nice gradients. You want to have the blurs. So if you are coming from native development, you are really going to struggle in order to build the glass morphism. For instance, a glass morphism design in React Native. That's something that was super easy to build in Flutter. And with Skia, you can finally achieve that. So in the community, in my opinion, there is a kind of confusion between Skia and Reanimated, but they are two totally different tools. And the amazing part is that they work super fine together. So the Skia API basically can be binded right now by using Reanimated tree. You have the possibility to use the reanimated values into Skia. You can basically do animations on the Skia components, so the gradients, the blur. You can basically animate everything on Skia, and you can have both super amazing graphics in your React Native app, and you can have the native architecture, the React Native architecture at the same time, and all of that by simply writing TypeScript code.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks for the clarification between what's included in React Native animations and what's the difference to Reanimate. I think just visualizing the difference that you're sending messages across this bridge all the time or just doing it totally native tells everyone that, yeah, of course, just there's only one way to do animations right, and that would be React Native Reanimated then.
So yeah, definitely. So actually, the point is that the amazing part of all of this process is the fact that at the end of the day is always JavaScript or TypeScript. So just to tell you how powerful this language is. So in my opinion, learning React Native is definitely valuable, but the point is that it's definitely valuable since you learn even TypeScript and JavaScript, and you can basically use that for everything. Right now, you can build a web app with TypeScript or JavaScript. You can even build a backend with JavaScript or TypeScript with Node.js and so on. So that tells you how amazing this language has come.
Yeah, the whole JavaScript ecosystem is amazing, and it kind of doesn't matter from which point you enter it. So I also started with Ionic and Angular, but it was only Ionic, so for cross-platform. And then just like a year later, I found that I can also use Angular for the web. So I kind of transitioned into web, and it's the same for React Native. You can just get started with React Native, which is a bit different from web, but it's still React. And so when you open a Next.js project or just React project for the web, you're going to feel at home. And if you do an Express server, you're going to also feel at home because it's JavaScript or TypeScript. So it totally doesn't matter from where you enter the JavaScript or TypeScript ecosystem. You can always branch out later into like different areas, front end, back end, whatever you prefer.
Absolutely.
So speaking of things to branch out into, I watched your video about the Metaball effect. So for everyone listening, there's like a video from Enzo where in the middle you have a little ball or dot of a mobile app. And with your gesture, you can move your finger around and it kind of snaps a bit to it, like the sun has an eruption or something going on. And I said, oh yeah, that looks cool. Let's look at this. And I found that what you do in this video is to me a totally different thing than JavaScript or TypeScript. It is like you're doing some kind of matrix manipulation. And yeah, let's just do 1, 2, 3, 3, 0, 0, 0, 1. Yeah, all of this makes sense. This is RGB. And then we have the coordinates and we have the blur. And like, it feels to me as though getting into animations is something you really challenging we need to learn. And I watched some of William's videos in the past as well. Like what William is doing, it looks like magic to me. And he deserves some credit for those great videos because I definitely couldn't come up with the kind of like math that goes into these tutorials.
Yeah, to be honest, what William usually builds looks kind of magic to me too. So Yeah, the point is that, by the way, the Metaball effect was deeply inspired by one of his videos called related to the Headspace app, and it's definitely an awesome technique, and that's something that, for instance, was really impossible to build previously with React Native, and that's something that you can build simply because you have Skia. So, for instance, without Skia, you cannot build that. And of course, you may be wondering, but actually, in a real use case, I will never have to need this type of Metaball animation. But the point is that there are a ton of different use cases where you can use this type of technique with the color matrix in order to achieve awesome transition. So I need to actually also say sorry to my Patreon subscribers. So I have this type of Patreon account, and the Metaball animation at the beginning was an animation that I scheduled just for my patrons. But the point is that after that, I built so many animations with the same technique used for the Metaball animation. And I simply decided to reuse this type of tutorial and publish it even on YouTube, since this type of technique used was super, super useful in a ton of different use cases.
So, as I said, it looks really challenging. What's the way to get started with something like this? I mean, I can definitely recommend everyone listening your channel and William's channel, but what's the way to get into reanimated animations and Skia? And like, if you're totally new to this, what do you recommend?
So from my experience, when I started, the William Candillon channel was definitely a reference for me. Even the Catalin Miron channel was definitely awesome. And there is this kind of new channel, even if it's not new anymore, in my opinion, and from Daniel Fria called React Dance Lab, React Native Dance Lab. Honestly, definitely worth it. And the point is that to be honest, right at the time, the documentation wasn't super clear about Reanimated. When I started, Reanimated wasn't already Reanimated version 2. Right now we have version 3, but these two packages are a totally different version from respect to Reanimated version 1. Version 1 was really, really complex in my opinion. You really have, and William Candillon channel at the time was the unique solution that was helpful for me. But the point is that right now the documentations are very well written, so the reanimated documentation, and even the Skia documentation. Right now there is a specific section in the Skia docs where there are published the most interesting tutorial that you can look at in order to build, in order to understand how the Skia API are working.
That's awesome. Yeah, so for everyone getting started, we're running a bit over time, but I would still love to know one last question regarding Reanimated before we get into our quick question round. So I saw that Reanimated 3.4 was recently dropped. Could you just quickly let me know what's new in the latest version? So what's the cool thing that stands out to you in Reanimated 3.4?
Yeah, so to be honest, I didn't try that myself right now, but I saw an animation on Twitter that highlights a very, very interesting trick that you can now achieve with Reanimated version 3.4.0. And the point is that, of course, with Reanimated 3, you have access to shared transition, and shared transition are simply magic for me. But the point is that you have the option to animate the shared transition even with the swipe gestures from the iOS. So for instance, while touching the swipe gesture, while navigating, you have the access, you have the option to see really slowly what is going on in the animation. You can see how the shared transition is working, and you can stop it while swiping with your finger. And that's something that is definitely new. Previously with Reanimated version 3, of course the shared transition was there, but there simply wasn't this kind of detail in the animation. So I believe that we are reaching a very interesting level right now with the animations. So the point is that I made a joke a while ago about the fact that as React Native developers, we often try to see what is going on in the native development, and we try to replicate that in the React Native environment. But right now, I'm quite optimistic, and I'm seeing that there is this kind of flip in direction. So right now, the native development is seeing what we are doing with the React Native animations, and they are trying to replicate that.
That's a great point, a great way to end this episode. Yeah, I love it that maybe the native developers are finally gonna be jealous about what we're doing in the cross-platform blend. One day. This has been great, Enzo. So I have 5 quick questions to wrap up our podcast. It's our quick fire question round. You can just give a quick answer. So are you ready and prepared?
Well, yeah, probably.
Question number 1. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Oh, perfect. Great. Mac or Windows?
What was the question? The question?
Mac or Windows? Which do you prefer?
Mac, by far, actually. There is not even comparison.
Oh, with your history, yeah, that question was pretty obvious. What's your favorite IDE at the moment?
So my favorite IDE, I would say... So Visual Studio is not an IDE. Visual Studio Code is not an IDE. So it's an editor. Unfortunately, I cannot say Visual Studio Code. I'm going to say, let's say, IntelliJ IDEA.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Good. So what's the latest package you discovered? Could be a package around React Native or a library or a service. One thing that's...
React Native Figma Squircle. So the point is that, quick answer, but React Native Figma Squircle lets you to create the Figma border radius, the Figma corner radius in React Native. So a really, really specific package, by the way.
We're going to put this in the show notes, yeah. No problem. Sounds interesting. I want to check this out. And the last question is, what was your latest useful purchase?
ChatGPT version 4, ChatGPT 4.
That's a good answer. I guess you're using it at work as well.
Yeah,
in combination
absolutely.
With maybe also Copilot.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. This has been great. And so I really enjoyed both parts of the conversation. First about general Flutter, React Native and company building, and our second part about Reanimated and animations. You gave the right answers to the first 2 questions, Star Wars and Mac, so you're allowed to come back on the podcast in the future. And now are like 20 or 30 seconds for you, so you can also plug whatever you want to give a shout out to your company or your tools.
Yeah, so thank you very much, first of all, to having me. It was really, really awesome. All the questions were really, so all the interview was really well structured. Even my experience at the Apple Developer Academy, which I usually tend to forget about. So it was really a reminder about how we did that till this point as a company. So we met at the Apple Developer Academy. And right now we are simply going to the office. It's just about 3 friends that are meeting. We are going to hire probably someone during September and October. So the worklet team will be a bit larger than how it is right now. But yeah, we are really, really flattered about what we have achieved till this point.
That's awesome. So everyone go check out also worklet.it. Check out Enzo on YouTube. I'm going to put all the links in the show notes. And of course, check out galaxies.dev if you're interested in more React Native courses and learning React Native. So thank you, Enzo. Hope to catch you again. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, Simon.